actually looked in the mirror and saw an Indian person, which is crazy because I'm an Indian person and I look in the mirror every day, but I never ever saw myself as Indian. Being adopted is probably the number one thing that kind of stems out into everything else. But it's not something people really know about you, I guess. Unless they ask, or if they see my mom and they're like, wait, why is she white? My mom is definitely a huge role model for me. She's just such a strong woman, a single mom, just doing her best for me, and she's done so well. I mean, she sent me to college. She's always held me to that high standard, like I said. The work she does is so meaningful. She's a chaplain at a hospital. So, yeah, just to see her like really giving herself every day and not really expecting praise back from that. So she's definitely a huge role model to me, but that being said, definitely the fact that she's white and I'm not has been, it just can't, there's just, that disconnect there, I guess. So like I have had to look just like to other women of color just for that kind of validation. I would say even today, if I like close my eyes and picture myself, I couldn't tell you like what color my skin is without looking down at it first, which is crazy. But I feel like white normalcy is just so ingrained in all of us. So I figured, St. Olaf is a land full of white people, my family's full of white people. I hung out with plenty of white people in high school. I never would thought that they would be different, but definitely the suburban versus the urban culture is very different regardless of race. I think even like the richest, whitest person in the city understands that their experience is not a universal experience. And because so many students from St. Olaf just haven't been in a diverse environment, I guess. I can't speak to people's experience, but they just don't understand that what they see, what they experience, isn't what other people experience. A student from St. Olaf who's in the mainstream came from a mildly affluent suburb, had a nuclear family structure, homogeneous family structure, probably homogeneous community racially and ethnically. I knew people had money coming to St. Olaf. I didn't realize how that kind of affects just like your viewpoint on so many different other things. Not really ever having that diverse community to fall back into has been a lot different. And again, just people who maybe aren't as used to being around diversity understand that when I try to bring out an alternative perspective, whatever perspective that might be, from kind of the mainstream norm at St. Olaf, it's not because I'm trying to be argumentative, or it's not because I just like being difficult, or people have this idea that I just love talking about race. That just, it's exciting to me, I guess. But it's not, that's not the point. I do feel that it's important to talk about race and identity and class and all of that. But that's, I guess I'd want them to understand why that's integral to me. If I say, why do we assume that everyone has a dad? Or why do we assume that people are of the same race in their family? Why do we assume things about family or about race or about any of that? People are, it seems like to me at least, people are less likely to be receptive to that. In the sense that they're like, oh, well, that's too bad that you don't see your experience, or that's too bad that we make that assumption. They'll just kind of be like, well, that's the way it is. That makes sense, because that's all they've experienced. It's something that I've experienced and that many people do experience. That was where I started really understanding racism as a system and not an interpersonal bias. No, there's no like big, horrible person out there saying, you don't get representation, you don't get this, you don't get that. But the nature of the system is not giving so many children something that they actually do deserve, regardless of what the reasoning is. There are all these things that we kind of assume, oh, that's just the way it is. But why is that the way it is? Or it doesn't have to be that way. I used to go to culture camps when I was a kid to learn about Indian culture. Those things that I was learning at that camp for 1 week, like maybe 2 or 3 summers out of my life, were the things that, like history, culture, all those different things, were the things that white people see every single day in their history textbook or in their literature book if they're reading in English, or all those things. I never really understood. I guess education is that powerful of a thing, or that meaningful of a thing, because it wasn't all that meaningful to me, because I didn't see myself in there. I knew that learning about my history was fulfilling to me, but it didn't occur to me that you could get that fulfillment every single day in school. Like if St. Olaf were to all of a sudden become an ideal place for people of color. If people could see what it means to have the entirety of your humanity acknowledged, if people could understand what that truly constitutes, because by not acknowledging this or by not acknowledging that, you are denying people's humanity. I mean, as humans, we mess up, right? So, of course, I might unintentionally say something that offends someone or that does deny someone their humanity or does code over someone else's experience. And if we could just have, like, I guess, a climate that allows for us to, like, call each other out in a way that is productive,